Welcome to the Get Fit With Me, expanding your physical and mental fitness group. This group is for individuals who want to expand both their physical and mental fitness while helping and supporting others with similar goals all along the way. In this group, we talk about three main areas. We have physical fitness, mental fitness, and nutrition. And each and every week we choose, there is kind of a battle rhythm to it, but each week we choose a different topic to talk about around physical fitness, mental fitness, or nutrition. So there's four types of conversations that you will see in the month. You have physical fitness, where we talk about specific moves, certain types of exercises, stretching, flexibility, anything related to physical movement. We have another topic that we talk about, which is mental fitness. It really covers a lot. It talks about organization, accountability, excuses, getting over what we hear outside and actually doing what is best for us, and a whole lot more. And then we talk about nutrition, which is actually today's topic, where we talk about carbs, fat, proteins, the basics, things that you can implement each and every day that allow you to still eat the way that you want, but fuel your body in a better way. And then the fourth way, or the fourth kind of training that we have in here, is a move and learn workshop. And we had one of those last week, and honestly, I think those are one of my favorite because it really opens the conversation up for Q&A to talk about whatever is really on your guys' mind. But the best part is we are moving for 30 minutes. So that's when I encourage you to put on your shoes, jump on your bike, get on the treadmill, get outside, bring me with you on Zoom. And we just have a conversation around where you guys are at, what you're struggling with, how we can help each other, how I can help you, but all while we are moving. So that's a guaranteed 30 minutes of movement in your week if you show up to that one. So we have those four different types of conversations that we have in this group. The best way to get the most out of this group is to click that little Zoom link above me in Facebook over there, and click that link and jump right in the conversation. When you are in the conversation, we can have a real life dialogue. Like last week, Shanti was on and he kept asking me questions more about this group. He's new to this group. So he was asking, what do we do? How do we do it? What types of things do you teach on? How do I implement it? It allows you to have that real life conversation. If you're not able to be on, I completely understand. Make sure you chime in the comments and drop #live or #replay and let me know that you're there. That also lets me know that the chat is working and that this is streaming how it's supposed to. So as you guys are going through, if you're hearing something that resonates with you or you have a question about something, type it in the comments, let me know you're there. Pick up anything that you want to take with you and leave whatever you don't want to use. Everything I teach is something that it's what I've learned. It's a way that I know works, but it doesn't work for everyone because we are all individual. So if you find something that works or you want to try, use it. If you find after a while it's not working anymore, we can have a conversation or you can drop it and try something new. So with that being the case, let me know that you are here. We're going to do some introductions. But before we get into that, we are talking on nutrition today, and we're going to be talking specifically on one of our macronutrients. So we've talked about protein and we've talked about carbs, and you guys have heard me talk about fats, but we've never actually done a training on it. So that is what today's training is on today. It's on fats. So for those of you who have not done any of this and you are completely like, I have no idea what you were talking about, it's okay. Drop a balance in the comments, and I'm going to re-tag you in a training I did probably about a month and a half, a little bit longer ago, where it talks about the importance of your carbs, your fats, and your proteins, and how they all create a balanced diet for you. So if you're someone who it's like, I either need the refresher or I'm completely clueless to what you are talking about, drop balance. I will tag you in that replay because we're not going to dive a lot into that today, but I still want you to have that basis and that knowledge and that foundation. So with that being the case, I'm going to refresh Facebook to make sure everything's working how it's supposed to. But I want to know from you who you are, where are you from, and what kind of brought you on today's call? Why are you listening to the replay? Why are you here live? Why are you listening to the podcast later on? What has brought you to listen to this training specifically? So as I have you guys kind of chime in here, I'm Morgan Ekovich. I am from Lansing, Michigan. I'm the one that runs this group. And the reason that I created this training is because I've done that foundational training for you guys. I've talked about fats, I've talked about proteins, and I talked about carbs. And then I did the breakdowns of the carb and the protein. And you guys had such great input and questions specifically in those categories that I knew it was important to touch on fats, and especially the importance of healthy fats or good fats versus bad fats, because it can be confusing. It can be very confusing to know what I should eat, when I should eat. Is this good? Is this bad? You guys have heard me say I don't really like to talk about good and bad food, but there are definitely types of fats that are better for us than others and ways that we need to be aware of it. So we're going to be diving into that today, and that's why we are here on this call. So as you guys are chiming along, I am going to get into it. As I mentioned before, we have 3 macronutrients. We have our carb, our fat, and our protein. So essentially, when we have a balanced meal, we need to have a carb, a fat, and a protein. And what that does is it keeps our blood sugar levels equal longer, rather than these spikes up and down, which some of us may have a lot of because our meals are not balanced. And by having a carb, our body's going to eat through that first. Then if we have a good fat, our body's going to eat through that next. And then when we have a good protein, our body's going to eat through that last, which is going to create sustainability in our diet, which means we're not going to have to eat as much as frequently because we feel fuller longer. Okay, so there's a whole training diving deep just into that. So if you want to hear more on that, drop balance, I will tag you in it. But right now we're going to focus on that fats portion. So really it's that second thing our body digests. So after the carbs, our body digests the fats, and then it moves into the proteins. So we're talking right about the fats today. And there are a few different types of fats. You guys have probably seen good fats and bad fats. And you've seen saturated fats, trans fats, and then there's monosaturated and monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. Those are going to be your 4 types. If you get anything from this, do not worry about the mono versus poly. Don't worry about that, because those right there are going to be our good fats, the ones that we want the most of, because they're going to help benefit our body in the best way possible. Whereas trans fats are going to help our body the least, and saturated fats are about right there in the middle. So I'm going to kind of break down all of these. I'm going to talk about the good, the bad, and that medium. And I actually, when I kind of create these, I think of our unsaturated fats as being our green, our trans fat being our red, and our saturated fats being like that yellow light. So if you think of like a stoplight, it kind of goes in that order. If you want to kind of remember it that way, that's a good visual when I think of things, especially when they can be a little confusing. So, okay, we're going to talk about the bad fats, which are those trans fats first, partly because that is something that when you look over on your nutrition label, you are going to see fats, and it's going to be saturated fats, and then it's going to be trans fats. And those are 2 of the things that they tell you on the back of the label. And there's something that you can visually be aware of when you look back at it. So when we talk about trans fats, like I mentioned, those are the ones that are really not going to help you or help your body in any way. So that's a way to look at it, as it's not going to fuel you very well. You could also look at it as bad. I don't like the bad, but some of you, that resonates with you better. So when you have trans fats, it's going to increase your risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and other health conditions. So if you know you are someone who is going to already be at a high risk for those, really watching those trans fats is important. And when we think about a balanced meal, we want those healthy fats. We want those fats that are going to fuel us in our balanced meal. We want more of those healthy and less of those trans, just because it's going to also help us feel fuller longer. So there's a bunch of foods that contain trans fat. Really, if you look at anything, there's probably 1 gram of trans fat in just about everything we have. But some of the main ones are going to be fried foods. So if you do anything that's been kind of deep fried or fried in general, that's going to have a lot of trans fat in it. Frozen foods such as pizzas, pies, anything that's really been highly processed to allow it to stay on the shelf longer. Baked goods have trans fat in it. Some margarines have trans fat in it, and any, like I said, highly processed snack foods or just anything that you see a really long shelf life on probably has a lot of trans fat in it, which is something you want to stay aware of. The more whole foods we have, the quicker the foods go bad, the little bit healthier they are going to be for us than that granola bar that we can grab off the shelf that will be good for 12 years. So we want to think when we are purchasing foods at the stores, are we buying something that is eventually going to go bad, or that's going to go bad pretty quickly? Or are we buying something that really has a shelf life of a long time? That's kind of how I think about when I am buying things at the grocery store of, okay, this has a shelf life of this. What can I get that's a little bit better for me? That's very comparable. That's not has as long of a shelf life, but has been less processed. So thinking of trans fat is also a trigger to inflammation. And when you have that inflammation, that's what can lead to that heart disease, that stroke, that diabetes, those other health conditions. So your red light on your stoplight is going to be those trans fats. Those are the ones that you want the most minimal amount of. But a lot of those highly processed foods, fried foods, frozen food, things like that have that trans fat in it. So if you have any questions on trans fat, drop them in the comments, let me know. I'm happy to answer specific questions, general questions, whatever it may be. And I'm gonna take a picture of a label and I will show you, and I'll circle when I was talking about the saturated versus trans. I will show that and I'll put that in the comments here so you guys can see what I was talking about. So we've just talked about that red light on the stoplight, those bad fats, those trans fats. The next one, which is going to be our yellow light, that one right in the middle, is going to be our saturated fats. So this right here is not as harmful as trans fats. It's going to be best consumed in moderation, which, just like anything, everything should be consumed in moderation. Whether you eat a ton of broccoli or you eat a ton of candy bars, if you eat too much of anything, nothing is good for us. So always have some moderation no matter what type of fat you are eating. So for the saturated fat, typically it's a solid at room temperature. So thinking of butter, thinking of coconut oil, thinking of meats of any sort. So some meats that could have some saturated fat in it is beef, lamb, pork, any sort of poultry, especially if it has the skin on it, beef fat, lard, cream, full fat milk, cheese, ice cream, and baked goods and fried food will also have that saturated fat in it. I eat a lot of cheese, I'm going to be completely honest. So I eat more saturated fat, but I don't eat that trans fat as often. So I stay more in that yellow and green part of the stoplight rather than that red and yellow. So thinking of, we can't always be in one stoplight, but which two do you spend your most time in when you start eating your meals and you make your balanced meals? So that saturated fat, it's found in animal-based foods like beef, pork, dairy products, eggs, typically oils like coconut oil and palm oil. Thinking of, is it a solid? Butter is a solid if it is kept on the counter, or if it's kept in the fridge, it is a solid. It's never going to melt on its own. So thinking of your fats like that too helps distinguish, is it something that's always a liquid? If so, it's going to be most likely a trans fat in that sense, because it's going to be that thing that fried foods are deep fried in, baked goods, margarines, things like that. And then you have your saturated fats, which are going to be typically solid at room temperature. Like when you have the fat in your steak, that's solid. It's not liquid in your steak, it's solid in that steak. So trans fat, bad fat. We have our saturated fat, which is our yellow light. And now we have our green light. So if you have any questions on saturated fat or any other foods that may fall into it, let me know. The biggest way that I can teach you guys how to get familiar with this though is turn over the labels on anything you buy and look at it. Or Google it if you are unsure, because I know sometimes chicken doesn't always come with the nutrition label on it. So if you just Google chicken, what will happen is you'll be able to see how much trans fat, how much saturated fat, and things like that. But anything that you buy that has a label, look at it. See how many grams is trans, how many grams is saturated, and see what the total is and where that breakdown is. So then we have our good, which is our unsaturated fats. We have two kinds. We have monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Anything that has unsaturated, that's what you want to remember. The mono and poly, not a huge deal to remember. Like I said, we're keeping it simple. We're not getting all confused. Unsaturated is what we want. That is going to be that green light, what we want the most of, or what some of you guys may know as the good or the healthy fats. When somebody goes, oh, you got to have a healthy fat with your meal. Until you know what that healthy fat is, we probably don't. We're probably like, oh, I don't know. I'll have some cheese. I'll have something. Well, there are specific things that are healthy fats. And when you have those unsaturated fats, it's going to lower your risk of heart disease, so it's going to lower your risk of heart disease, which is going to benefit that heart. It's going to lower your LDL cholesterol. It's going to improve your insulin levels. It's going to improve your blood glucose levels. And it's also going to help fight inflammation. And remember, as we said, that inflammation is high. We're going to have more struggles with that cholesterol, that heart, their insulin levels, with all of that. So we can keep our inflammation low. That is going to help us all around, especially if you are someone who is at high risk to begin with. Really focusing on your healthy fats is going to be a huge help as you are creating your balanced meals. So, general rule is fats are liquid. So healthy fats and oils are going to be like your olive oil, for instance. That's never going to get hard. It's going to stay liquid. And it's something that we're not going to deep fry in olive oil necessarily. We're going to use a different type of oil for that. So that olive oil is a really good healthy fat. You can use it in your pans when you are cooking chicken, eggs, whatever you're cooking in your pan. It's a really nice, I always have olive oil on hand. The other healthy fat is nuts. So it's either handfuls of nuts, raw nuts, or anything including nut butters, sunflower butters, or peanut butters. Nuts are going to be that second healthy fat. Another thing that's going to be a healthy fat is going to be seeds. So pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, any of those seeds that you would throw in a smoothie or that you may grab, those are going to be perfect. And I actually have a diagram for you guys once we get through this. I found it through the American Heart Association, and it just had a really clear breakdown that I'm going to share also in the comments, so that if you guys want to pull that and post that in your house, you're welcome to. It just broke down what those healthy fats were a little bit more in a visual sense rather than just speaking and hearing it. Fish is another great healthy fat. It's got a lot of omega-3s in it. We have avocados. You guys have probably heard avocados are a healthy fat. Yes, they are. Eggs have healthy fat in them. Ground flaxseed, chia seeds, and even beans have omega-3s in them, which are that healthy fat. So thinking through on that list that I just listed there, olive oil, nuts, nut butter, seeds, fish, avocados, ground flax seeds, eggs, chia seeds, beans, are those usually a fat that you go to? Or do you migrate more towards cheese, butter, ice cream, beef, lamb, pork, poultry with skin? Or do you migrate towards frozen foods like pizzas and pies, baked goods, highly processed foods, and fried foods when you come to think about your balanced meals? Sometimes we don't even realize that we are consuming more of one area than the other. And I know we've talked about a lot of times we consume more carbs than we realize and not enough protein. When it comes to fat, often I fall into cheese as a go-to for me. Cheese and olive oil are probably the two that I use the most. But depending on what we're doing, if we're traveling a lot, I may fall into that trans fat area a little bit more because we are eating out more, things are being fried, we're grabbing frozen stuff that we have to microwave, whatever that may looks like, or we're having highly packaged, or we're having snacks that have been highly processed. So think about from day to day, what types of foods do you eat and what fat category do they fall into? When you travel, does it change or is it the same? Fat is an essential macronutrient. We need carb, fat, and protein. Some fats are going to fuel us better, make us feel better, both in the moment and long term. And especially if we are someone who has high risk for anything, cholesterol, heart disease, anything like that, we have to be more conscious of the specific fats that we are putting in our body. So by knowing these, your three main types, you have your green light, which is your unsaturated fats. You have your yellow light, which is your saturated fats. And then you have your red light, which is your trans fat. Knowing that you always want to stay in that green or that yellow as much as you can. That will help you, whether you have pre-existing conditions or not, that will help you stay healthier longer, feel better longer throughout the day, and be less hungry and feel better just fully all around, mentally, physically, everywhere. So drop any questions that you have. I'm going to share my screen real quick and I'm going to show you. Okay, so you guys should be able to see this okay. So this is from the American Heart Association and they've got some really good graphics. So if you guys ever are looking for something or you have questions, they've got really good graphics. You can either reach out to me and I will help find them, or you can go find them on your own, whichever you would prefer. So 4 ways to get good fats. Replace saturated fats with unsaturated fats as part of a healthy eating pattern. Unsaturated fats help lower bad cholesterol and triglyceride levels, and they provide essential nutrients to your body's needs. 4 easy, delicious ways to get more good fats in. And we talked about these. So fish. Eat fish at least twice a week. That is a recommendation. Ideally, you want something that is going to choose fatty or oily fish like tuna, herring, trout, sardines, salmon, anything with omega-3 fatty acids. Those are super great and we tend not to get enough of them, especially if we are meat eaters. We tend to migrate towards meat. Anyone who's a vegetarian may have fish here and there. I know a few, but trying to figure out, are you getting omega-3s in? And if not, are you replacing them with a supplement? Because omega-3s are essential as well. And if you're not a fish person, you're someone who doesn't eat fish or meat, you can take a supplement to help get some of those in. And that's something that you can always look at, but if you can get it from food, it's going to be better for you and it's easier. The next one, be nutty. These are hilarious. Go fish, be nutty. So you can grab a handful of nuts. I actually, in our accountability membership, I went live yesterday and I showed some of the essentials that we keep on hand in our household. And tuna, canned tuna is one of them, which that would be the go fish. Another one is nuts. I try to keep mixed nuts of some sort. Sometimes it's just peanuts, sometimes it's seeds, sometimes it's mixed nuts with sea salt. It just kind of depends on what we have. But I keep those on hand, so I always have a healthy fat on hand because we sometimes don't have anything in the fridge. Add avocado. You can cook it, you can eat it raw. I really like it on breakfast, so I'll do sourdough with mashed up avocado and 2 eggs on top with some everything seasoning. Guacamole is always great. Thinking of ways that you can get creative. I've tried deep fried avocado. It is good, not super great for you because it's deep fried, but you can find different ways. They have so many recipes out these days, then how you can add avocado to things that there's endless. Pinterest, great spot to find any of those. And then your last one is checking your oil. You can have avocado oil, canola oil, corn oil, grapeseed, olive, peanut, sesame seed, soybean, and sunflower oils. So I'm going to post this in the comments for you guys. So if you want to print this out, you are more than welcome to. It is a good reminder as you want to post it in your fridge to think, oh, have I had fish this week? Have I had any nuts? Have I had an avocado? Am I cooking with the right oils? Because we can cook with the wrong oils too. So I'm going to stop share. And I want to know from you guys as we are getting ready to wrap up here, what are you taking away? Is it the visualization of the green light, yellow light, red light? Is it the types of foods that fall into the categories? Is it the visual that I just showed you? Whatever it may be, think of what is that thing that you're going to remember from today's call? Because if you jumped on this call and you did not take anything away, what was the point of being here? And if you wanted that training on why this training was made, why we had specifically done FATS training, drop balance, and I will tag you in that training that explains that whole process on why we need that carb, why we need that fat, and why we need that protein, and how they all pair together to make us feel our best throughout our day, whether we are being active or it's just a normal work day. So drop your insights and takeaways below. And if you have any questions, let me know kind of just anything about your diet. I do food audits. So if you would like a food audit, you can drop audit and we can look a little bit more in depthly at what kinds of fats are you eating, what kinds of carbs are you eating, what kinds of proteins, and how we can do some swaps or how we can just add some extra food in there to help you feel fuller, which then eliminates you wanting to go for some of those highly processed foods at the end of the night. So if you have any questions, let me know. I will see you all next Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Have a great rest of your day.